when I first found out about QAnon, I tried to talk about it to my family, tried to talk about it to my friends. No one gave me the time of day. It was like, of course not. But my dad did. And the thing was that my dad, when I told him about this was something that I knew that he didn't know. And at that point in my life, I was still living at home. I still am, but I'll be moving out. But anyway, I was still living at home. I was unemployed. I had yet to finish uni after 15 years. I had never held down a job for more than 6 months that I hadn't got fired for. And, I was an absolute loser, basically. I'd done nothing. And when my dad the look that he used to give me when we talk about QAnon, we used to talk about it for hours, just in the kitchen for 4 or 5 hours, just talking. And he used to look at me with a kind of respect that I had never seen him look at me with before.
Wow.
And I kind of liked that. So I went out of my way to find new and interesting stuff to talk to him about. So he got really into it really quickly. And then I got out, and that was the only thing I regret about all of this. I don't regret falling into QAnon and all of that stuff. Not because I look at it as like, oh, it was actually a good thing. No. Because like that's just not the kind of guy I am. I don't regret things like whatever. Like I look to the future. But this I regret very much. It's one thing to waste my time and waste my own like potential or whatever. But my dad is a self-funded retiree who spent almost $100,000 on a couple of patents, and he retired to work on these. But he doesn't. He's just consumed by QAnon for the last 2-3 years. And like, I cannot get him out of it. He's still in it. And I have tried and tried and tried, and he is still in it. And it's the worst. It is the worst. Like I get so triggered whenever he even starts talking about it. Like I was saying, the only thing we had in common was talking about politics and economics. We can't do that anymore. So because like at the moment, it's a bit like I'm South Korea, my dad's North Korea. Like QAnon and like politics is like the DMZ, and my mom and my sister are like the UN and the US. So it's kind of sad because we just don't connect on that level. And it's my fault too, because I also get like really, I get so triggered every time. Even if I hear a hint of a conspiracy theory, I'm like, I don't want to hear this, Dad. Shut up. I know more about this than you. And he'll call me a sheep. He'll say, I'm asleep. I'm not awake, which I laugh at because I'm like, dude, I introduced you to this. You can't just shut up. Don't tell me that. But to be honest, that is such a good outcome for this particular situation. In fact, I don't know how much better it could be because we're still civil. We still talk to each other. There's probably about an 80% warmth of what it used to be, but it's still pretty warm. Like my dad doesn't, go out like scream and shout and rant about QAnon anymore. But I'm also a moderator of QAnon casualties. So it's a subreddit, in case for anyone who doesn't know, which has specifically a subreddit or a forum for people who have lost friends and family to QAnon. It's not even like a general QAnon subreddit. It's people who have lost people to QAnon. And we have 200,000 members.
Wow.
100,000.
Jitarth, we actually interviewed Mike Raines several months ago, back when it was back when it was maybe 45 or 60,000 or something like that.
Yeah, man.
And even then it had grown.
That was during our really exponential period. I remember there was a thread, the creator of that particular subreddit had posted on the general Q subreddit about this new subreddit he had created called QAnon Casualties, right? 3 people commented. One of them was me. I remember when it was 400 people. I remember when we had 10,000 and I was like, that's a lot. Then we went from 10,000 to 180,000 in 1 year. For a period of like 8 months, we essentially just doubled. We went from 10 to 20 to 40 to 80. And it was insane. And just as a mod there, like it's the stuff that you see is really bad. I see people like you said on the top of the show, divorces, lost friendships, like not being able to see a family anymore. That's stock standard. That's nothing. We see people who it gets worse, because then we see people who have committed suicide, cultists who have committed suicide because of this. We see parents refusing to get their children vaccinated. We also see stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard this, but we recently had someone who was a survivor of the Stoneman Douglas school shooting, and their dad was a QAnon follower, and he didn't believe him. He thought he was a crisis actor, right? That was, and by the way, I confirmed that story as well individually. It's true. And that's just some of the stuff. And we see it every day, constantly. And if anyone doesn't think that this is some kind of, like Rachel said, Rachel indicated earlier, some kind of absolutely new phenomenon, like we can say, it's kind of like a doomsday call. It's kind of like a interactive game. It's kind of like a whatever. That's all correct, but that's not completely right, because I don't remember anything that's taken off like this to this level that is so ridiculous. It's like Game of Thrones level popularity. That's the last thing I can remember that was at least bigger than this. And if anyone doesn't think it's an issue, dude, come to the subreddit. This is a subreddit with 200,000 people. This is just on Reddit. I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, it's really, the mods are pretty, they're really good. And I just want to shout them out. I just want to say that these guys are great. They are amazing. And there's a lot of us. There's 20, but there's a very high attrition rate. There's only about 4 or 5, and we get, like, they do so much work, and we're all casualties in some way. I think all of us, everyone listening on some level, like some have lost more, but we've all lost some.
Rachel, so often the family plays a central role in helping a cult member reconnect with reality and normalcy. What do you see as being the unique challenges in circumstances like this, and what Jitarth is describing, in which, families might be split down the middle, with some indoctrinated and extremely online, others begging them to stop, some of them trying to play the role of the UN?
Right. So these kinds of cases, and I don't mean to sound clinical by calling them cases, because they're families, they're human beings, they're tortured souls on both sides. They're wanting their family to believe them, and they're wanting their family to be safe. And they're so afraid that if their family doesn't believe what they're sharing with them, something horrible is going to happen. And I think that is some of the fomenting, some of the fervor, and the reason that they get in your face. Because if someone's trying to save someone else's life, they will get in their face. There is something that happens that is so sad, when we're talking about people going into these school board meetings. I'm working with a lot of families who the children will say, that mom who got into the principal's face and made that speech and was telling us that we were all stupid and we're morons and really lost composure. Well, that was my mom. And I need to go to school in 2 weeks and show my face in this place. And I am terrified. So here again, I'm going back to this idea of saving the children. They made their children feel so much shame, and that they now don't know if they're going to be able to have friends at that school. And now that they are able to go back to school, they don't want to. Same thing with families now having an opportunity to get together again. They don't want to. So what I think families can do is the ones who are concerned about a family member, they have to give up this idea of needing to be right. Because if it needs to be about someone being wrong and someone being right, then you're going to get nowhere. It needs to be about taking a step back, having the person who has that belief teach you about why it matters to them, getting to the core.